Kya baat hai. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a fantastic session now because I'm about to introduce you to somebody who is not only special, but comes from a special place. How many of you have ever been to Mauritius? How many of you do not know where Mauritius is? Well, let me fill it in. It's about 500 miles away from Madagascar. It's between 5.5 and 6.5 hours from India, about 3,500 kilometers, and it is the pearl of the Indian Ocean. And it gives me great, great pleasure to bring onto the stage now for what I know will be an intriguing session that we're going to do. Would you please give a big welcome to the former president of Mauritius, Mrs. Amina Gurib-Fakim. Amina. Amina, welcome onto the TEDxGateway stage. It's great to see you here.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. Namaste.
So, I thought I'd just give you a little bit of background before we started getting into the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. Amina was the 6th president of Mauritius, served as the president of the country from 2015 to 2018. She was the first woman elected as Mauritius president, and the third to serve, there we are, very important, and the third to serve as a head of state after Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, because that was a time when Mauritius was still a part of the British of Britain, and also Monique Osan Belapiu, who was served as the head of state. And a little bit of background: she was born in a small village in Mauritius. Her parents, Hassanji Gurib, and her mother, Firdaus Durgahi. She went to a convent for high school, and then went to Surrey University to do a BSc, particularly studying chemistry. Then went on to do a PhD at Exeter University in the UK, and then returned home in 1987 to work at the University of Mauritius, where she became the professor of organic chemistry, and then grew to become the vice-chancellor of the Mauritius Research Council. Wow, just that in itself deserves a round of applause. So, first of all, your interest in chemistry and science, and also the other thing about Mauritius is this: although it's an island country and small by Indian standards, it is right at the front line of what is going to be key testing zones for where the future of humanity might be going because of climate change and because of the difficulties we're facing as a result of that. What do you say to that?
Thank you very much. You have rightly said, we have been described as being the star and key of the Indian Ocean. And as you have rightly said, Ralph, we are the gateway between Asia and Africa. We will become a living laboratory because already Mauritius, as an island, is the biodiversity hotspot. And also, unfortunately, with climate change, we are already 13th on the World Risk Report. So this means that all these challenges can be translated into opportunities, and I see a great future for my country in becoming a testing lab for all these new technologies, whether to address education, whether to address what the youth can do in terms of entrepreneurship, whether it can be, for example, how this biodiversity can become the new green gold. So I see great opportunities ahead.
Okay, so when we mentioned that you were raised in a small village, let's look at a picture. Can we, there we are, that's you. You're the one on the left, I assume.
I am indeed.
Very good. You look so cute. Oh. How old were you there?
I was 7 years old.
7 years old. Did you know that you were going to be obsessed with chemistry at that age? Did you have a sense that you loved science?
Yeah, I was about to get infected by the virus of science at the time, yes, because I had fantastic teachers who were highly motivated and who were teaching me science in a living laboratory. I'm going to the river, for example, to observe the cycle of life. So they were highly motivated, and I was told that I was doing science when I was cooking an egg. I was doing science when I was washing up. So science had all the answers for a very inquisitive child that I was. I was asking all the wrong questions, maybe, but it was the right questions to ask my teachers.
So here's a shot of you.
University days.
That's university
That's right.
days.
That's right, university days.
So you looked carefree there. Obviously, all that science going on in your head, still doing something. You've always been someone that really listened to what the famous Indian philosopher Amartya Sen said about 100 million missing women because of female feticide. Tell us about that.
This keeps me awake at night, because if we are going to win a football match, we cannot leave 52% of the team on the bench. And that girl child has to be protected even before she's born. And as a Nobel Prize winner Amartya Sen in India, we're still talking about the 100 million missing women. But once she's out there in school, we need to ensure that she has the right facilities. And in some countries, we find that girls miss out on school for 1 week per month. We need to ensure that the books, we have removed the gender stereotypes. We have to have her cheerleaders in her father, in her uncle, in her brother, in her grandfather, to tell her that she can go out there and she can do anything, because she's capable of doing anything. It's only when we empower that girl child that societies and our economies will be able to function at its full potential. So keeping the girl in the center stage of all our development, it is very, very important indeed. It's true for India, it's true for Mauritius, it's true for Africa, especially Africa, because it's going to be the youngest continent very soon. By 2035, we'll be contributing to the biggest workforce to the world. So we need to engage more and more with our women.
So in 2013, you did something that became both unique, I would say revolutionary in Mauritius, because this is when you were at the University of Mauritius and you made a complaint to the Mauritius Equal Opportunities Commission, the EOC, where you felt that there was persecution against religious minority. Explain that to us.
I will start with an analogy. I would cite Lee Kuan Yew, the late Prime Minister.
The founder of Singapore.
The founder of Singapore. He had said that there is nothing more, well, it's a disaster if somebody, an individual, is living in a country and working in an institution where that individual cannot dream of reaching the highest echelon of the institution where she or he is working. Meritocracy is going to be at the basis of all the functioning of our institutions if we are going to see emerging quality in everything we do. And this quality can only come through quality people. And this is why I am all for looking at meritocracy. So our countries, our regions must be seen as regions and institutions where meritocracy is systematically taking root.
So what happened with this case with the Equal Opportunities Commission? Did you win that complaint?
Well, they did cut the pair in half, so telling me that the process may not have been appropriate. But by that time, I felt that I had to move on. So I used whatever I had accumulated in terms of knowledge to create my own company. So turn again negatives into positives. And I moved on, and I became an entrepreneur, and I was the first person to translate my academic research into a business, because we still don't have incubators as we should be having in countries, in emerging countries, because when you have incubators, you can translate ideas worth spreading into a business.
So you set up the first biopark in Mauritius.
Indeed, I did.
Is that a picture of you in the biopark?
No, this is the picture of me at the university. I was, as I said, I have been exploring our traditional in knowledge, our biodiversity, the green gold, which I increasingly call the biodiversity of Mauritius. And through this green gold, through this biodiversity, be it from the ocean or be it from the land, we should be investigating and looking into new avenues for development, be it in the pharmaceutical sector. And this is what my company was doing, providing innovative ingredients for the pharma, food, and cosmetic sectors, because Mauritius is part of the biodiversity hotspots. And from biodiversity hotspots, which fortunately or unfortunately still remain in the realms of the tropics, I said unfortunately because climate change is precisely threatening this resource. And this resource has to be protected at all costs because it's going to provide us with solutions for our future problems. So this was my my vocation, is to identify these novelties from our biodiversity hotspot, and this was the basis of my business company.
So even though you had served in the university as the Vice-Chancellor, you'd never been in politics per se before as a professional politician. We'd like to hear this fascinating story of you becoming, some would say, the accidental president of the country, but it was really based on merit. Just give us some of the background as to what had happened and why and how you became proposed as a possible president of the country.
I was a deputy vice-chancellor, and this is why I didn't get the post of vice-chancellor, and I left. And what was perceived to be negatives when I was functioning in an institution, by meaning negatives, I mean being a woman. Already this is an issue. By coming from a Muslim minority, this was also negative at the time, but became positive when it comes to election campaign, because this is when you see the full divisive force of politics come in force. And I was also politically untainted. I brought in some credibility. And so all these became a very powerful mix to propose me as a candidate. But to be very fair, to be very honest, I thought I was in a battle of David against Goliath, because on the other side, there was two big parties which were in coalition. But I said to myself, if I can serve my country at the highest level, let us take this risk. And I stress on the word risk, because this should become part of the language of all youth. Learn to take risk. It is not taught in business school. It is not taught in books. It is something that you need to engage with, especially if you are going to move on in life. Learn to take risks, especially women.
So the opposition leader falls out. You suddenly find yourself in a position where you get nominated by who to become the president? And you get the votes internally within. How did it work?
It was, well, as I said, once the name was proposed by one of the members of the coalition, so they went to the campaign, but I didn't campaign because I still believe that the post of president is an apolitical post. It needs to be free from all, partisan politics. And then I was elected unanimously at the level of the parliament. So I think it was one of the very few times when there was consensus around electing a woman. So I can safely say that I was on board 100%.
So you become the first Muslim African president, and then you also come into this position. And here's a picture of you. Well, this is you. You win a special L'Oreal Award for UNESCO for Women in Science. Yes. But here, there's the former French president, François Hollande.
Yes, with the Légion d'honneur in France.
That's when you were awarded the Legion of Honor.
Yes.
Which is the highest public award. Amazing. Who is that?
This is Stefan Löfven, because I was co-chair for the ILO World of Work.
And he was the Swedish
Prime Minister.
Yes,
yes.
Amazing. There you are, meeting the Swedish Prime Minister.
And this is the state of Qatar, the Al-Thani.
The Sheikh of Qatar.
Yes.
That's the Qatari flag in
That's
the background
right.
there. And why was he smiling so much? Did you tell him that he should come to Mauritius for a vacation?
I always tell people they should come to Mauritius for vacations.
That's right. Who's that?
The director of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, in Vienna.
Oh, that's right. That's where they headquartered the International
That's
Atomic
yes.
Energy. And there you are on the steps of the Élysée Palace in Paris.
That's right. That's right.
That looks as though Hollande is saying hello to you as the President of France. But that's an interesting shot. Great shot there. Who's that?
Nicolas Hulot and Laurence Toubiana. Laurence Toubiana was also president for the COP21, the climate conference. And Nicolas Hulot, until recently, he was the French Minister for Environment. Yes.
French Minister for Empowerment.
Yes.
There's Macky Sall, the President of Senegal.
President of Ghana.
Oh, that's President of Ghana.
Yes.
Yes, there's the Ghanaian flag on the right.
That's right.
And
UNSG.
the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, there he is with yourself. He just made this impassioned plea at the G20 summit just 2 days ago, talking about the problems of climate change. And in fact, I want to concentrate on this with yourself,
yes.
Because it is so vital. Mauritius stands right at the crosshairs of being able to determine the extent of what the climate crisis is. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Absolutely.
And tell us how and why.
We depend on water, the ocean, because you know ocean regulates the climate. We see that there is warming of the temperatures of the ocean, which means, of course, more violent cyclones, which tend to visit us between January and April. And increased temperature, increased acidification means death of the coral reef. And we all depend on seafood, for example, for protein, about 12 to 15%. And climate change will also impact the local biodiversity. And we have seen that over the years, since independence, we have been able to diversify economy. We have moved into what are called increasingly the white, the blue, and the green economies.
Explain what that is, the white,
Yes.
the blue, and the green.
After independence, our economy was 92% dependent on sugar, and as we speak, it is less than 5 points in terms of contribution to the local economy. And through the ingenuity of the diversity of our people, we have been able to transform this sector, and of course with the power of free education, which became available in 1976, to educate our people, to provide the appropriate safety net, and of course to provide also healthcare. And this has been very, very helpful to help the country diversify the economy. So we started with the white economy, which is, of course, the financial services. And I think, of course, India is very, very aware of the contribution of Mauritius in the financial sector. So if we are to look at the web, we have moved very far on the white economy. But the potential of the blue and the green economy will, of course, rest with the power of knowledge generation, with the power of quality education, and, of course, within the overarching realm of climate change, which is going to impact both sectors. So if we are going to go into renewable energy, if we are going to go into the ocean economy, if we are going to explore the green goal, which of course the law of plants we have in Mauritius, as I said, my company was looking at innovative ingredients, we really need to take climate change very, very seriously. And I think the plea of the United Secretary General is really appropriate, and of course, rightly here, we need to have that conversation.
So you've also spoken about the need to discover ingredients for reinforced food, science for addressing human hunger, medicine, well-being, cosmetics. This is a whole new area of science, and your background as a biodiversity scientist is something that gives you a kind of overarching view of where these directions could go for green and blue economic development.
Absolutely, and this is again comes with a passion for science. And I have always said that if you're passionate about what you do, you will not have to work a single day in your life. So my passion has been science, my passion has been to look for that chemistry, and has been to explore precisely this green goal that we have. And through this green goal, looking at neglected plant species, for example, we will be able to target hidden hunger. If we look at innovative ingredient, we will be able to target the well-being industry. And when you feel good, when you look good, of course you can be productive. You will do good as well. So this is a sector that we need to explore. And of course, India has such a fantastic biodiversity as well. And I think the Indian government has done so well in documenting that knowledge. And this is where we have to say a big thank you to my forebears who actually are from this country. And they have developed, for example, the database for Ayush. China has been given the Nobel precisely for the Chinese traditional medicine, which has given rise to artemisinin coming from Artemisia annua, which Professor Tu Yu has discovered in the lab, but through the exploration of ancient traditional cultures. Where we are weak on the African continent and where we can leverage our positioning of star and key and bring Asia to Africa is precisely to share the information and how to document the way the Indian people have done it for so long.
So, unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but I just wanted to thank you for coming to participate at TEDx Gateway. You are really helping to shape the thinking and the preparation for what we as a planet will have to face with global climatic change. Just on a final comment, because of the closeness of India and Mauritius, particularly because of the immense linkages between the two countries, a final thought from yourself about what you think about young Indian women, young Indian men, and the future of what you and they could be thinking about.
Well, already I have a lot in common with, I am from a people of Indian origin. I have got my PIO card, I'm very proud of that. And I hail from the Ghazipur region in Uttar Pradesh. And Mauritius, through the Indian diaspora, is a microcosm of India. And we have shown the diversity of the Indian people in our Indian diaspora in Mauritius. But having said this, the Mauritian people is a microcosm of the world. And through this diversity of what Indian culture, Indian parampara, tradition have brought into my country, we have developed a fusion culture. And this is where we bring the talent, the ingenuity, the tradition, the culture, and the knowledge together with Africa, with Europe, with China, and with India. We have emerged into a Mauritian culture. And again, this is something I'm very proud of, and it's very close to my heart. So it can be done. It can be done through diversity. It can be done through unity in diversity. And this is what the Mauritian people represent.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a wonderful round of applause to President Amina Gurib-Fakim. Amina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on to the TEDx stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Auntie Uttam. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.